It is Friday, October 15th. Let's talk PlayStation. Hello everyone, welcome back. This past week was yet again another relatively slow week for PlayStation between, well, not just Sony, but like all the platform holders and publishers. You know, it's just kind of like we're all in autopilot mode until we get to the holiday season and also the Game Awards in December. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that we'll be talking about within the coming weeks, but right now it's just one of those low points. However, I passed my low point because last week I wasn't feeling all that well, and I'm doing much better, so that's good. And so now we can start the show with our PS Plus reminder. The October games are still available. Download these, add them to your library, get that done. And this is a good segue to our first story, which is about PlayStation VR, because on Tuesday, Sony celebrated the 5th anniversary of PlayStation VR launching on PS4. And as a little tease celebration or tease of the celebration, the November PS Plus lineup is going to include 3 bonus PSVR games. And I do want to really emphasize this. Bonus, so it's not a matter of 3 PSVR games for everybody where most people don't have PSVR headsets. They're bonus games, which is certainly welcomed for PSVR owners. And we don't know what those titles are going to be, but presumably you've got 3 PSVR bonus games and then 2 PS4, 1 PS5. So 6 total, which is it's not really a bad month, and you should always claim everything, even if you don't have a headset, which is going to be the vast majority of you. But much like the Play at Home initiative, why wouldn't you claim all the free stuff if it's there? You never know when you're going to buy a headset if it ever interests you, or maybe the new headset. And that's still where it's completely up in the air of if that thing is going to play older games. I don't expect it to, but it's also something where even if it doesn't, and this ongoing rumor that current PSVR games, some developers might be working on, native next-gen versions, which may or may not include free enhancements. And if you have those games attached to your account, that's where you might be eligible for free, PSVR next-gen games. And it's just, you should always claim everything if it's free, right? Especially when you can hide things in your library if that really starts to annoy you with it bloating up your total collection. With that said, Sony also put out the top 5 most played PSVR games globally. It's not really a surprising list. Everything on there makes a lot of sense, like Rec Room, Beat Saber, PlayStation VR Worlds, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim VR, and Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. And yeah, they're the usual suspects. Beat Saber is well known. PSVR Worlds, that is a pack-in game. It's been packed in for many bundles, so that by default is probably on there. Elder Scrolls, Resident Evil, these are, comfortable franchises that in their own right are fantastic in a 2D environment, so by the time you get the headset, why not experience it in a full 3D, virtual world, because they do work quite well there, or at least, Elder Scrolls is a little bit tough. But it's just something where Sony is going to be talking more about PSVR soon, right? That new headset is on the horizon. And I expect that we're probably looking at Q1 2022 for some kind of formal live stream reveal of the headset, the software lineup, maybe some technical demonstrations, but this is a product category of its own where it's not going to be a bunch of tweets and PlayStation blog posts. This thing is going to have to command some sort of live stream, and maybe we'll see that next year. Moving on to our next news story for The Last of Us HBO TV series filming right now in Calgary, Canada. We've got more, not leaks per se, but just more set photos releasing and, unofficial set photos or even candid videos that are being captured now. So, they're filming in broad daylight in Calgary, right? It's not like, it's a big city, so it's not like they're going to be able to stop this stuff completely, but there is a lot of security on set for what is a major production, unsurprisingly. But we are seeing some pretty cool shots, like all the set pieces, and well, really, we also got a front-facing view of Pedro Pascal as Joel, and he looks good, really convincing, actually. There was also this top-down aerial shot being captured of Anna Torv leading Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal throughout this, like an open walkway or something, but you can just see what they're doing there. Yeah, it's just, I'm excited. I'm surprised, though, that we haven't seen anything relating to infected or clickers, which probably a lot of that stuff right now is just it hasn't been filmed yet, or they're doing interior shots for that stuff because they don't want that to get out, not on their terms. Since there are so many people trying to capture all these, so I feel like they want to try and save that for whenever they release an image on their own, like they did for, 1 or 2 weeks ago with, again, Joel and Ellie staring off into that cliffside. Now for our next news story, PS5 is nearly 1 year old, and that really is true. We're coming up on 1 full year that PS5 has been available. And well, that's the story, is that it's been nearly 1 year and Sony still has to do an invite-only lottery system for the opportunity to purchase a PS5, and that's what they're doing again this upcoming holiday season. So basically November 1st is when they'll start doing more invites for PS Direct drops. And well, the thing is, I mean, if you were signed up from the first time, which was before launch, they've been using that same registration email list, or I guess PSN list, where they've been sending out invites via email, and that's where it's been, I'd say, the most comfortable to buy a PS5. It's not guaranteed, but if you show up on the right time, or if you follow the link appropriately, the right ID, and you can usually, if you sit there in the queue, you can check out no problem. Sometimes there has been PS Direct stock where you can just go to the site, and if you wait in the queue, you might be able to buy one without the invite, and that's worked for some people. It did for me one time. So it's possible. It's just that, well, the holiday season's going to be really tough to buy one, but it's been tough the entire way through. But anyway, they opened up the registration process again on their main website. Right now, only in the US, so if you have a US address to ship the console to, you can sign up and order a console and ship it to somewhere in the US, or presumably if you live in the US, that would be ideal. And how do you receive an invite? Well, basically this is the same wording they used last time, I think, where they said their selection is based on previous interests and PlayStation activities, which, yes, that's very vague, but it's probably a number of factors like the age of the account, how often you play on it, maybe platinum trophies or just trophy activity, right? How often are you playing games? But also, very importantly, they're probably looking at average spend on PlayStation Store. So, you know, if you're buying a lot of games, if you're very active, I'm sure that helps you out. But you don't have to be a huge whale on PSN, just that you have to be pretty active on there, and that probably helps your chances as best as they could possibly be to buy a PS5. Moving on to our next story, over on the Apple Music subreddit, one user in particular noticed that when they opened up the PS5's control center and they checked out the music options, they actually saw that Apple Music was listed next to Spotify. And when they tried to choose Apple Music, it just said something along the lines of, this app's only on PS4, which it's not available on either console at this point. So this might tell us that Apple Music is coming to PS5 relatively soon, and PS4 as well, and who knows how this actually happened in terms of maybe it was a server-side bug, or it's already baked into the UI in some way, shape, or form, and it was a display bug that way. But really, this could be more Apple-related news than strictly PlayStation, as Apple has an event coming on October 18th, and that's where there should be some Mac news, but also service news, where maybe Apple Music will be available on more than just the limited platforms that's on, which is largely Apple products. So maybe it'll be on PS4, 5, Xbox, other services, or not other services, other devices. Maybe that's what they'll announce in the coming days, and that might explain what happened here. Now, while we're talking about Apple, this is a great time to move into our next story, which is Sony recently filled a very big position at their company that they didn't really publicize whatsoever. And whenever they talk about this initiative, it's always in quarterly reports, or, something with, investor relations or interviews. They'll talk about this as well, but it's this big mobile push that's coming at some point. They're working on it. And, well, over the summer, back in July, they finally appointed that head of PlayStation Mobile, and it's a big one. It's Nicola Sebastiani, and he used to work at Apple as head of games business management for the App Store. He did that for about 4 years, and then recently he was the head of content at Apple Arcade. And, well, say what you will about mobile games. I'm sure a lot of you really don't care much for them, or maybe you're vehemently against them, and that's fine, I suppose. It's just a matter of, at a minimum, we should recognize that this is a high-profile position that was filled by a high-profile individual that spearheaded a large, mobile game initiative at a well-known company like Apple. So, I mean, this is something where Sony seems to be taking this very seriously, and this is also probably a point to bring up for those that like to immediately go to this angle, but it's not a matter of them doing less console games or less traditional, console stuff, right? This is a matter of a business scaling up, and they're looking for other, growth opportunities, other sectors that they can explore. This is why they're doing more multiplayer games, because that's been a sore spot for them for a while, and this is why they're trying mobile again, because we've seen Sony try mobile initiatives before, and it's always half-baked, or sometimes you don't even really know what I'm talking about when I say that, right? Because it's like, what mobile games? But it's like, oh yeah, they did Run Sackboy Run, which was a PlayStation IP. They also had Forward Works, where technically that developer was under the PS Studios umbrella, or really they were just owned by Sony Interactive Entertainment, but that developer was making mobile games for Japan and I think also China, so that was very much a targeted market where those markets in particular only play, or they largely play, handheld or mobile stuff. That's why Switch is doing so well. That's why Vita did so well in Japan, for example, right? And so that was probably something where Sony wanted to aim to, do well in those markets when they can't sell nearly as many PS4s or now PS5s today. But it looks like this mobile division right now, it looks like this may be the most meaningful push that we've seen so far. And what could that look like? I think one of the best examples I've seen so far is something like Genshin Impact, where it's such a big game that you can play it on mobile and console, right? And that's where we are today, where I think back in a few months ago, actually, there was just an update where you can finally start using your PSN ID for that game on mobile, and that's maybe a good example of what a massive push in the mobile space could look like, where you don't have to buy these games, but in theory, if Sony puts out something where it's a brand new IP, or it's an existing spin-off of a well-known PlayStation IP, where it feels like a console-esque game that can be played natively on PS4, 5, and natively on mobile, so this is not something where you're doing, cloud gaming, remote play, or anything like that, right? You might have some sort of genuinely fun experience where it's tailored to the smartphone, and there's no compromise when you play the console version, because that's also made with a controller in mind. And out of all the mobile initiatives and pushes they've done over the years, I mean, that something like Genshin Impact is an example of how it could be more meaningful to people, or how it could have a far wider reach than what it did before. And there may actually be that appeal to somebody that plays strictly on a console today, because you'd actually be getting a console game alongside the mobile app, if that's how they approach it. This could also be something where it is straight up a mobile initiative. These are mobile games. There's a mobile service you can sign up to, that by itself would need a roster of games. I really want to see what they do, because so far, it's been nothing, like literally nothing when it comes to Sony trying to experiment in this space. You can't really experiment with mobile games. The people that experiment, they fail utterly, and that's what Sony's done time and time again in that space. So if they're going to do it, I would at least like to see them do it right, and it remains to be seen if that is the case. But I think with this recent hire, that shows that they are in a much better direction than they were the previous times. For our next news story, as reported by Nikkei Asia, it looks like Sony might be looking into teaming up with Taiwan's TSMC for possibly building a new semiconductor manufacturing plant in Kumamoto, Japan, which the land that they're looking to use would actually be Sony's, and it's very close to their current production facility where they produce image sensors. And this new facility, if Sony takes a minority stake, which is allegedly what Sony's looking into doing, this plant would be producing image sensors, semiconductors for cars, other products as well. But this is something where Sony would have a minority stake, and I believe the Japanese government would also foot half the bill for this $7 billion possible investment of building this new factory, which wouldn't be up and online and operational until at least 2024. But this is something that Sony is possibly looking into. No confirmation or anything like that. And this isn't strictly a PlayStation story per se. This is the Sony group that would be investing if they did. Now, we've seen Sony before make minority investments in, say, Kadokawa or Epic Games, and you could argue that we've seen something out of that from their close relationship with both From Software and Epic Games. But this is the Sony group where they would benefit in a number of ways if they have some sort of allocation to, make more image sensors, or the semiconductors for image sensors, and same for possibly PS5. But this wouldn't be online until 2024. And by then, we have to consider a few things. Like, for one, you would certainly hope by 2024 it's easy to buy a PS5. That, and you would hope that any sector, any business, any product that is facing this global semiconductor shortage, you would hope by 2024 most factories are online, because a lot are being built right now and they're slated to be done and ready and operational by mid-2023, 2024. Some countries are going for local production, and so like this particular factory where Sony would have some investment, they might be able to get allocated more semiconductors or whatever, but I mean, would that be entirely necessary? I don't know. That would be peak year, or I guess slightly after peak year for the console, but PS5, who knows how well it'll still be doing by then. But we do have to consider that by that year, we're also looking at a chassis redesign, so the console would be slimmer. We'd have a slim PS5, presumably by that point, which would also probably come with a process size reduction. That's just a sort of natural evolution, and so that's probably going to be very important to Sony. Also, I've seen people bring up PS5 Pro over and over again, which we've done a video on this maybe a year ago, year and a half ago. I don't remember when exactly, but essentially, I know it seemed like a natural expectation to have a PS5 Pro when we had PS4 Pro, but it's looking like that's not really going to be necessary this time around. In fact, it might even very well be unlikely that we'll have a PS5 Pro for a number of factors. Just the diminishing returns of what a PS5 Pro could be, what it would cost, and thus how much it would cost versus what you're actually getting. Right now, we have a very good price to performance ratio with PS5 and Series X, so I wouldn't think this would be necessary for a PS5 Pro, right? But they would be doing a slimmer PS5 at that point, and that still would be necessary for more chip production or, again, lowering the process size. So it's interesting. We'll see what they do. It's an unconfirmed, it's a rumored report right now, but it would be an investment for the Sony group. And if anything, it would just be something where it's an investment opportunity for them, and we might not see anything all that meaningful from a consumer-facing point of view. Moving on to our next story, we missed this one just barely on LTPS last week, but basically the Irish singer and songwriter Ava was recently on a Irish radio show describing a project coming up for a big PlayStation remake, as she called it. The way she described it was the composer Michael McGlynn reached out to her, and they needed her to write an Irish language piece for this game, and that she did say that she's not really familiar with video games, but she is aware that this is supposed to be some sort of big PlayStation game. And apparently we should be seeing some sort of formal reveal around Christmas time, which isn't really specific, but we do know that the Game Awards are December 9th, so that might be appropriate for whenever this remake gets announced. And at least initially when this showed up online, a few people started to do some digging to find out, what could this, game possibly be. And they noticed that the music production company led by Yasunori Matsuda, they were working with McGlynn and his daughter. Ava says McGlynn's daughter sings vocals on the Irish language song for this game. And putting all this together, I guess people have come to the conclusion that this could be for Chrono Cross, Xenogears, Xenoblade. Also, people kind of put two and two together that the only other Irish-themed song was one in Metal Gear Solid, so that also ties in with these Metal Gear Solid rumors that we've been hearing, but it seems likelier that it's maybe one of the other games that we just mentioned, like Chrono Cross or something. I think that is the consensus right now, is that this is probably what this is all about. And probably worth mentioning that when she says a big PlayStation game, she says she's not familiar with games to begin with, and at least out in Europe, all those countries, territories throughout that entire region, it's not uncommon for somebody to say PlayStation and they're just referring generally to video games. So this could very well be a run-of-the-mill, third-party game that ships everywhere, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Switch, whatever the case may be. So depending on what it is, it's likely for everything. I wouldn't say for sure right away that this is some sort of PlayStation-related or a Sony-involved project. But that's what we heard about right after LTPS last week, and so we should be finding out whatever this mystery game is relatively soon, within a month and a half or so. Next up, as part of GI Live London, one other interview that we didn't talk about just yet because last week was Jim Ryan, and this time it's Jade Raymond and her formation of Haven Studios. And Haven, we know Sony signed on for an exclusive project, and well, before this interview, we didn't actually know too much about Haven other than based on job listings, we could tell that this is probably going to be some kind of multiplayer or live service-based game. And now, based on what she said, it paints a better picture of what this game might really look like. So the first thing that she actually said was when they formed the studio and they were looking at publishing opportunities, she did say that PlayStation was their number one pick for who they wanted to go with or who they wanted to hopefully get signed on with, due to Sony's reputation and probably also that creative process between the two. But she just noted that due to PlayStation's reputation, that's who they want to sign on with, which tells you more about what the kind of reputation Sony has or what they command throughout this industry. So obviously it is a big opportunity to work directly with PlayStation on a project, or at least having their backing their financial backing more so when you're making a game. But anyway, she did describe this project in a few abstract but kind of very forward ways, where she says, and I quote, "There are three things that are really exciting me, which are the pillars for the way that we're thinking about things. First is games as a social platform. The pandemic has proven that gameplay is the social glue that binds communities, especially for the younger generation. This is what you do and how you make friends and hang out. This is something that we really want to build and design for. The second thing is thinking about the remix generation. It started a little while ago. There is this age of self-expression where we're designing our Nike ID shoes, we're reading our friends' blogs rather than what our professional journalists are writing, and I think that has continued to go further with things like TikTok. That's another thing that we're thinking about at the heart of this IP. It is beyond user-generated content. It is about taking that self-expression and remix concept to the next level. So based on what she's saying, it does seem like we now have a good idea of what this game is really going to be, or what it's going to be centered around, which is user-generated content. And I know she's saying they want to go above and beyond that, and who knows what that really means, right? How many creators have said they want to take a basic genre or concept and take it to the next level? So it's not to say that she won't be able to achieve that, but right now, at least, it seems like a safe bet that that's what the game is going to be, and who knows how they're going to approach it. I mean, I think the obvious comparisons you draw here, especially because Sony signed them on, is things like Little Big Planet and Dreams, and those games are fantastic because you can create such amazing things inside there, although they're not really accessible tools to begin with. LBP is, in my opinion, much easier, but even that was like very hard back in the day for just more casual folks. Most people would buy those games and then just play other levels. So maybe she's describing something here where it is more accessible, like TikTok, where the vast majority of people can, you know, look at another TikTok, grab a song, grab a piece of it, slice it together with their content or whatever, right? Maybe that's kind of what she's describing, and she wants to take those fundamental ideas and put it into a game. So it could be a very interesting way to approach how a game is and what it looks like and how it plays. This could also tell us maybe it's more family friendly instead of, you know, mature like Assassin's Creed, where she's so well known for, she's associated with that franchise, and so there's, you know, just a curiosity as to what the direction of this project is. And it's not a clear-cut answer, but it's one where we can say somewhat definitively, okay, this is how they're going to be approaching that game. We know that it's going to be some sort of online live service-based game that is going to have some sort of unique user-generated content angle. And that might also explain why Sony believed in the idea. So I would just like to see it now, which would be, it's going to be a while until that happens, but at least now we know. Moving on to our next news story. This one's really strange, like really weird. Like there's no context as to why this is a thing to begin with, but what happened was PlayStation Europe uploaded an unlisted YouTube video which was spotted by recent era user Authentic M, and it's a 15-second clip, very short, of the director Andy Serkis, who directed Venom Let There Be Carnage recently. He's just on there for 15 seconds congratulating you on your recently earned platinum trophy, and he says that's quite an accomplishment. And that's it. The clip has, you know, some shots from the movie, no Spider-Man game or anything like that, and he doesn't actually say what game he's congratulating you on. What? Why did they make that? What is that for? It's unlisted, so that might tell you that they're saving it for a rainy day. Maybe they're going to include it in an email, which they've done before for when you earn a platinum trophy in first-party games or even second-party games. They did it for like Bloodborne, where they send you an email congratulating you. Sometimes they give you a theme or something. But Spider-Man 2 is years away, 2023. They made this very early. Is it for the current Spider-Man games, which is like cool, but like, all right. I don't know. It really weird. I had to talk about this. I watched it and I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, why did Andy Serkis congratulate me on a trophy? And he didn't even tell me which one. I've been earning a lot of trophies lately, but which one did he congratulate me on? It's a mystery, and I'm starting to lose sleep over it. Now, with all that said, it is time for Let's Talk Plus, the weekly Let's Talk PlayStation giveaway, where one of you can win a $10 PSN code. I would like to congratulate this viewer right here. I'll be contacting you very soon via email or Twitter. And if you would like to win a $10 PSN code, it's very easy. Follow the link down below. Supporting this channel a number of ways can gain you an entry, and I'll announce the winner next week because I'm trying to help pay for your games. Those are all the stories that I want to talk about with you all from this past week. And our Tuesday video was testing a bunch of PS2 games on a backwards compatible PS3, a fully backwards compatible model with the full PS2 SoC on the board. We're testing games that reportedly actually had issues on those PS3s, which they're far and few between, but some interesting results there. Go check it out. And then coming up, as I noted on Twitter, I'm kind of in the middle of something for the month of October, and that may or may not come into conflict with the Tuesday videos. up until November, when hopefully this project will be ready to go within maybe the first week or second week of November. So we'll see how that pans out. I'm trying not to miss a Tuesday video up to that point, but that's what I'm doing right now. I'll keep you posted on Twitter if anything changes. And that's it. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me, and I will see you all next Friday.